Good morning, folks. This is your agent of change, DeCorey Davis, with Crack the Mic podcast. And in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month and Mental Health Awareness Day, which is in a few days, I decided to go into the discussion of self-love, because we do know that that is something that a lot of folks are suffering with. The numbers are quite riveting, that I would imagine that there are several people who struggle with this issue. And I just want to just candidly speak. And when I think of self-love and self-awareness, I can't hesitate but go to the story in the Bible when the Israelites were actually up against the Amalekites, the Hittites, the Canaanites, and the Jebusites. And when they were commissioned by the generals to go spy on their enemies, they brought the report back, and it stated as follows: "We were as grasshoppers in their eyesight." And I can't just help but imagine that how you see yourself is a direct reflection of how people will view you. And to help me with this here segment, I actually invited a mental health professional therapist who has a master's in counseling and psychology from the great Palm Beach Atlantic University, who brings a wealth of experience to the table. Let's welcome Mrs. Tamika Brown. Tamika Brown, say hello to the folks on Crack the Mic.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Corey, and good morning to all of you listening. I hope everybody is well. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Corey, for having me. I really, really appreciate this opportunity. I don't take it lightly, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Tamika, let me just ask you, let's just dive in this here conversation. You are the professional here. And we know with the pandemic playing such a big part of our lives for the past year, what are some of the major mental health issues people are experiencing at this time, in your view?
Got you. Well, a lot of people at this time are, of course, we've been in this pandemic now for, a year and a half or more. So life has changed for many of us.
Absolutely.
We're all living a new norm, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so in this new norm, we have all had to be as adaptable as possible. We've had to be flexible, and we've had to conform to something that, in our particular lifetime, we've really not known, we've not experienced. We've heard about
unprecedented.
Yeah, absolutely. We've
Right.
heard about the Spanish flu. We've heard about other, the Great Depression, other things in history that, of course, have changed the course of people's lives. But this is something in our present time that has definitely hit us hard. And a lot of people are right now just dealing with grief. You
Right.
have, I consider COVID-19 to be a demonic plague. And it has caused, so the death of so many people. Many people have lost entire families.
Right.
You wake up one day and, your entire family, is gone, and you're now, in this tailspin and just trying to figure out life. And so for a lot of people, just no longer having their support system. Some people didn't have strong support systems, and they were already to a degree in isolation, just in the way they lived their lives. But just with the shutdown that we had very early on when the pandemic started, and even now, many people, yes, some companies have reopened where people are starting to go back to work. However, we're really living, what we're seeing is we're living in this virtual norm, this virtual world. Right. And a lot of people just not having that human interaction, not having that a strong tribe or community, it takes a toll on the mind. It takes a
Absolutely.
toll. Yeah, so it takes a toll on the emotions. And even going back to, I just kind of want to go back a little bit to your opening point concerning self-love. So
Hmm.
a lot of people, get into that state of isolation just because of how they feel about themselves. They a lot of times do not feel love. They do not come from families where giving love, showing love, expressing love was a part of their norm.
Right.
You have a lot of people who have experienced high levels of trauma, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and those things play on the esteem of a person.
Absolutely.
So it now changes, their what God intended as to be their original identity, and to be for them to be shaped into who he wanted them to be. That's been distorted. And then now with this pandemic, life is now not only distorted, but it's disrupted.
Right.
And
Right.
so you're seeing a lot of anxiety, you're seeing a lot of depression, and you're seeing a lot of, with the isolation, that causes so much loneliness. And so you have
Hmm.
a lot of people, even children
Hmm.
now are expressing, high levels of self-cutting. You have a
Hmm.
lot of They have a lot of suicidal ideations. And so just that whole self-love piece, plus the pandemic, you're just seeing high levels of grief, high levels of anxiety, high levels of depression, and just a disruption of life. So it's that those are definitely major issues that we're seeing in our mental health community that need to be addressed. And I believe, just based on what we're seeing, the climate that we're seeing, not only just in our nation, but worldwide, I
Right.
believe, you're going to definitely see a high impact as far as the mental health professionals that are going to be needed, because they're needed now, but just as we continue in this state, where it's going to be definitely a high demand.
Absolutely. I echo that sentiment. Now, let me just say this here for a moment, because in the Black community and other minority communities, how we view mental health, there's a halo of our stigma, to say the least. It's considered dementic or crazy, and I think, if in my view, that is one of the things that impedes upon a person's ability to reach out and to say, "Hey, I'm drowning. I need help. Help me. Help me. Help me." Because there's a philosopher, and I believe it was Socrates. Don't hold me to it, but I believe it was him. He said, or William Shakespeare, if it was, "To thy own self be true."
Shakespeare. Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Shakespeare. And if you cannot really be honest, keep it honest, keep it real, looking, as Michael Jackson would say, as the man in the mirror. And if you can't really be honest about your struggle, or what it is, or that you're dealing with, because of the stigma, people don't want to be stigmatized as being crazy, an addict, or a demented person. So how can we, well, I guess, how can we alleviate that stigma? And this will be a two-part question. How can we alleviate the stigma, meanwhile trying to find ways to manage the symptoms?
Okay. Well, just according to, the most recent statistics that I can find, in the Black and minority community, you have about 63% of Blacks and minorities who feel that mental health counseling, the profession in and of itself, is considered, a waste of time. It's just talking to somebody about my issues. How is that going to really help me?
Right,
It's seen as a great sign of weakness. A lot of
right,
people,
right.
we hold a level of pride, in being strong. We have had to be strong. from a historical perspective, just dealing with the African diaspora, dealing with slavery, dealing with
Right. Right.
the civil rights movement, moving into even look at our era now. We're still dealing with issues of race and racism and equality, where
Absolutely.
we're right, we're still, you're a Black man, so
Yeah,
right, you're
absolutely.
I always say
Last time
Black,
I checked, I was.
there you go.
Right, right.
So, the Black men, I always say, are in a sense, the way of the world and the way that this country is being run. It's like, if you're not careful, Black men are definitely becoming an endangered species. They should be an endangered species list just based on what is going on. So just
Right.
even with this, Black Lives Matter movement and so many different fronts, Black people, Black men and women and minorities as well, have just not historically just been very receptive to getting help in that particular context. It is just simply seen as weakness. It's simply seen, listen, I've been there, done that. You've seen mommy, daddy, sister, brother fight the good fight of faith. You've seen them hold it together. You've seen them survive. So a lot of in therapy, we call that psychopathology. So
Right.
we follow the cycles and the patterns of our parents, our forefathers, and basically nobody decides to do something differently. And so those same patterns, those same cycles, those same mindsets. So
Right.
mommy decided not to get help. She decided to cope with alcohol, drugs, or just
Absolutely.
right, even from a spiritual perspective, some people
Right.
use church, use Jesus, God, as a coping mechanism, right, in order to not confront some of the issues that they need to face. So even there is a hiding even behind God, the Black church, and so many different aspects where Blacks and minorities, they have this mindset and choose not to seek the help that they need, even in their drowning, even in knowing that they're experiencing certain depressive symptoms, and there's anxiety or they're finding that they're repetitive. You're looking at your mom, your dad, your siblings around you, they're experiencing these same things. You're starting to experience these same symptoms, but nobody's choosing to do anything about it. And
Right.
that's
And in my view, not to cut you off, Tamika,
Mhm.
but in my view, I truly believe that it's not a sign of weakness to admit that you have a problem. I
Absolutely.
think it's quite the contrary, because if you think about it, as you were saying, if you're drowning and you're in the water and you're drowning and there are lifeguards out there throwing boats out there or little things to help you to deal with you getting out of that situation, and you refuse to accept the help that's available to you, that is absolutely asinine in my view.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Asinine, insanity, insane, all of that. Absolutely. But the mindset, especially even for men, typically don't think there's a level of pride. Many men, they don't necessarily know it and wouldn't articulate it as such, but many men struggle actually with narcissistic personality disorders, where there's that some have Napoleon complexes, some have this king syndrome, where listen, I'm the man, I'm the boss, I don't need the buoy, I don't need the lifeboat because I got this. I'm a man. I've been taught, the world has taught me to stifle and suffocate my own feelings, right? And so in order to look like I've got it together, look like I'm strong, I'm not going to accept the lifeboat because I can do this. And so you have, gender is a part of it for sure. And it is asinine, as you said. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
And you know what? Just because I just heard you said something and it just kind of, wow, it just kind of made my skin crawl. Because here's the problem. And I look at it because as a Black man, and you want to be strong, you want to be men want to be great leaders and for their families and in the community. And like you said, sometimes when you do not heal, and I think it was Paula White who coined the phrase. She said, you cannot conquer the things that you
You
fail to
don't
confront.
confront or
Now,
identify. Yeah, absolutely.
and a lot of times it's trauma. Things, if
Yes.
you have dealt with things in your family, I think it was Jay-Z who kind of talked about telepathy. He said, hey, my father was a hustler, so naturally up next is me. You look at those things, those patterns, you look at those self-destructive patterns. My dad was not there. He did drugs. He sold drugs. So this is the life that chose me rather than the life that I chose.
Right.
And to break the cycle, like you said, you have to get some type of help. You have to sit
Yes,
down and have that candid discussion with someone.
absolutely.
And like you said, that is something because we say, hey, I don't want anybody in my business. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to really know that these are the struggles that I struggle with in the dark.
Right.
I'd rather be silent
Mm-hmm.
about it. And silence, we know, can kill you
Absolutely.
because you're
Absolutely.
struggling in silence.
Yes.
And which leads me to the next question. What are some top mental health issues you would say overall? We talked a little bit about depression
Right.
and anxiety, but what are some other things that we have not kind of talked about right now, Tamika?
Got
That's
you.
important.
Absolutely. So in addition to, of course, the anxiety and depression, you also find that a lot of people are dealing with personality disorders. They're dealing with bipolar depression. They're dealing with schizophrenia. They're dealing with suicidal ideations. They're dealing with even issues in marriages, in just
Right.
interpersonal relationships, communication. You have, let's say you have one partner who is, very, very communicative and the other is not. Like just
Mm-hmm.
with this pandemic that we've gone through, many couples have divorced and separated because of this
Oh, yeah.
pandemic. Because
Yeah.
just now you've had to be locked up in a house. You were already going through issues, or
Right, right.
even if you weren't, now you're in a situation where, wait a minute, I'm with this person every single day. So you have the good, the bad, and the ugly that is in your home. Nobody has work to escape to, even if you're working, you're working virtually. Everybody's working
Right.
virtually. So now you have an issue where now you guys have got to now navigate the issues that you are forced to you're kind of forced to deal with, because you no longer have, going out to work, or being as free to shop and just kind of escape as you normally did. So even just in relationships with couples, you're seeing a lot of interpersonal conflict that arises, because now you've got to deal with this person day in and day out, which that now, I'm seeing an increase in the couples that are coming for counseling in our telehealth through our
Mm-hmm.
telehealth service.
Right.
You have a lot of people who also have eating disorders.
Right.
You have a lot of people who have just usually this is on the for those in the aged community, but you're seeing,
Mm-hmm.
of course, higher levels of senility, dementia, Alzheimer's,
Okay.
other mood disorders, and then psychotic disorders. So those are just kind of, a little synopsis of just the different manifestations that we're seeing in the counseling room. So it is a lot. It is a lot to deal with.
And let me just ask you, Tamika, because I want to just go back because you said something that was just quite startling about relationships. And you're right, the pandemic have forced us to really kind of be in spaces and ideally, or essentially what you're saying to me, avoidance is not a coping mechanism, right?
It can be from many people. That is what they are using, but it's not healthy. It's
Yeah,
not
and the
not
pandemic,
healthy.
ideally with the pandemic forcing us to kind of everything's shutting down. We're having to spend more time at home.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, divorce is at an all-time high because I think people are really having to share spaces with people, like
Yes.
you said, that you really don't like, or
Yes.
you know. So
Yeah.
that can kind of attribute to the all-time high with respect to divorce rates in America, because it's out of control.
Yes, absolutely. And that's in the church, out of the church, everywhere.
Absolutely.
Everywhere. Yeah, people are, just highly stressed, and you're dealing with, I always say it's the ways of a person that
Mhm.
causes you to grow closer to them or move farther away from them. And when those ways are not checked, when you're not clear on each other's love languages, when, conflict is being avoided,
Right.
confrontation, healthy conflict, healthy confrontation is being avoided, where you're not sitting down to really listen to each other. You're not actively listening to each other. And this goes for all relationships, period. You
Right.
find that, one person is not there. One person's trying to reach out and say, hey, are you hearing me? Are you listening? The other's not listening. Or you have a lot of, in relationships, what tends to happen too, there's a lot of misinterpretations, there's a lot of assumptions going on, and those assumptions can really lead you down a wrong road and end up leading you into something that shouldn't even be. Because had you just, sat down and said, hey, what we're facing this issue right now, okay, it may be painful, I may say some things you don't like, you may feel a way that I don't agree with, but let us discuss this, let us get through this and figure out how to navigate this particular issue or conflict, or however you want to articulate it. Let's work on it together. Because
Absolutely.
no relationship is, the Bible says
Perfect.
that those who marry face many troubles. Well,
Wow.
so right. And I learned that in my first marriage, trust me.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so for me, it was reading the good book where I came upon that scripture, and I'm like, wow, like, everybody thinks of, you look for the wedding day, you look for the white dress and all that comes with that particular day. But now you have to live a life. Now you have to walk on this journey with this person who is continuously evolving. You have, sometimes we're in a relationship where one person is growing at a rapid rate, the other
Oh
is
wow.
kind of lagging behind. that
Hmm.
that creates issues, right? Because I'm moving forward, I'm pressing, I'm doing my thing, I'm walking in my destiny, but the other person's sitting at home doing nothing, or just kind of existing. those
Right. Right.
those things can cause issues. Of course, we know finances, we know, sexual incompatibility and compatibility issues overall. Because
Absolutely.
even two saved people, if you're not compatible, that relationship is going to enter into some conflict at some point. It
Absolutely.
just is. So yeah, all of those things, will manifest. And when they do, and the persons are not able to talk, and work through them with each other, that's where I come in, and other, professional therapists come in to try to help and navigate, be a neutral party to help that couple navigate through those issues. So it's not easy, but it is worth it, and it can help you to have a successful relationship.
Absolutely. I echo that sentiment there. And lastly, let's just kind of deal with this here. In your view as a professional, Tamika,
Mhm.
what are the best types of therapeutic interventions and sources, or resources rather, that people can utilize to get help? Because
Gotcha.
it's out there. It's out there. The help is out there.
Absolutely.
You just have to ask.
Yes, absolutely. That's honestly the first step, going back to, you had asked me a two-part question earlier concerning, stigma. And one of the ways to alleviate the stigma is to have that conversation about therapy, period.
Mhm. Right.
I love what, I think, Taraji P. Henson and some other, celebrities, are highlighting we've seen Simone Biles, we've seen, um, the tennis player Naomi Osaka. We've seen,
Uh-huh.
so many athletes and celebrities becoming more open now about their mental health. And I think that is going to help people and help us overall to alleviate that stigma. But the first is that, yes, that conversation, that openness, that willingness to say, hey, you know what, I have this issue and I need help. I can't do it by myself. I don't have the mechanisms that I've tried or I'm trying they're not working. So I
Right.
need some help. So that the first part definitely is that openness in that conversation to highlight the importance of mental health therapy, period. Now, within mental health therapy, I believe one of the most important things is to find the right therapist for you.
Right.
You
Right.
have you definitely have to
Right.
be with somebody who gets you, who you can build rapport with very easily, who
Right.
understands your issues to a great degree and can be able to work with you through your issues. And now it's not just about you finding the right therapist. So as the client now has a job to do. So they're coming for help, but they also need to do their part. I'm one of those therapists who loves to give homework. And I
That's
really
a
believe,
great one.
yes, I really believe that, homework reinforces what we've done in session. And so if I'm giving the homework and you're not doing it, we've got a problem.
Because you're not playing your part in the recovery.
Absolutely. Yes.
Process, rather.
Yes. So true. And, for people coming in with those self-love issues, with those wrong, perceptions, identity issues, trauma, just sexual abuse, loneliness, depression, grief, all of those things that we mentioned earlier, in order to deal with that, you're going to have to do some work. As far as the modalities of therapy, there are many modalities that work for different people. Usually, let's say for juveniles, a lot of it's good to do, I think, art therapy, image, some acting, maybe play therapy. It's good to do, I like to do decision trees with youth, because they're able to see, okay, if I make this particular decision, let's do branches on a tree to see what's the next step. Right. What does that lead to? Okay. So that's one thing. So I think it's also, finding the right modality that works for each client. And right. There are some clients, especially those with deep-seated trauma, sexual abuse, EMDR therapy is an awesome tool that can be used. Cognitive behavioral therapy, you have psychodynamic therapy, so many different modalities that can really work to help people regardless of the issue. So it's really I guess a multi-layer kind of answer, but I think just finding that right, identifying that issue, deciding to confront it, getting the right help from the right person, and now that therapist employing the right modality for that client, and now that client doing the work on their end to bring forth their healing. So
absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, it goes back to our original point, self-love. Yes. If you do not, see yourself and appreciate yourself, Tamika.
Yes.
I think ultimately people view you how you view you. Yeah. That's what the old folks would say. And until I don't think there's any guru, any pastor, any priest, or any mental health professional that can actually take the task, as you stated earlier, you have to put the work in.
Yes.
And you've got to be able to say to yourself, listen, I want to change. Yeah. I want to live. And it's a sickness. It's a sickness. Absolutely. And just like a cold, if you're coughing, the symptoms are there. You're going to go to the store. get some Robitussin. No free ad there, Robitussin. I'm just using that. You're going to medicate that to get the healing that you need.
Yes.
So to it when it comes to mental health issues,
Yes.
depression, anxiety, etc.
Yes, exactly.
It's incumbent upon you, as you said, the mental health professional, to put the work in.
Yes.
Seek help.
Yes.
Seek help. You're sick, baby, and you can get well.
Mm-hmm.
It is just you taking the lead in your recovery with respect to mental health, to reach out to the various types of outlets that are there to assist you. And let me just say this here: if you're feeling suicidal, you reach out, say
Absolutely.
something, say something to someone.
Yes.
You know, because we all have gone through things, and I think it's just really a part of being human. And sometimes when you isolate, and then with this here pandemic going on,
Mm-hmm.
we were forced to isolate. I think a lot of people were forced to deal with their demons,
Yes.
to deal with themselves, or the man in the mirror, as Michael Jackson so famously said.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself can be a daunting task, because you don't really want to look at those really deep issues that you have faced, those deep traumas. You know, if a person has been sexually abused, you know, hey, you know, a lot of times hurt people hurt people.
Oh,
It will
yeah.
affect the way you actually live your next relationship. You feel like, hey, this was done that way. And it can be something as minute as, let's just say, a conversation. You were, you know, talked down to or abused with
Mm-hmm.
respect to conversation, how a person talked to you, they verbally abuse you.
Right.
You know, could be a parent, a teacher, a spouse, whatever. So how you deal with other folks, you know, you may see it as a confrontation when a person is just having a conversation, because you're looking at your previous experience. And until you bury that and move forward with your life and start the healing process, I think you just recycle those problems over and over again. Your thought?
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to, going back to what you said concerning you know, Paula White's quote, you cannot, you cannot if you don't identify and confront the issues, you cannot heal. You cannot move on. You cannot live that life that you're supposed to live. And so I would encourage anybody listening to this podcast, if you have any issues at all, no matter what it is, number one, ask for help. Reach out.
Right.
To get, you know, even if you've got to go on Google, YouTube, Facebook, pick up the phone, you know, call your local therapist, call your local church. I don't always recommend, not every pastor can give or should give mental health counseling unless they're trained, but seek out people that can help you. If you can't talk to, you know, your mom or any those figures that are typically closer to you, and you want somebody who is neutral, seek out a therapist. It is to me a point of self-care. It's a point of self-preservation. It is you investing in you to say, okay, I want to change my life for the better. I want to heal. I want to live the life that God intended for me to live. Because the enemy, yeah, you know, the enemy whispers a lot of lies to people, and they in turn believe them, and then they act them out, and then it just leads to a life that, you know, just filled with so much hurt and pain and brokenness, and a lot of it is really, you know, unnecessary. There are things that happen to us, you know, that we don't it's not our fault, and unfortunately there's sin and evil in this world. However, once you become wise and you're knowledgeable that, wait a minute, you know what, I have a choice and I can do better and I can work on me, that's the time to say, okay, I need to employ some help. And so I hope that this conversation helps someone, and that you value you enough to get the help that you need.
Hey, that sounds great to me, Tamika. And listen, we'll end it on this note. You
Awesome.
have to put the work in order for you to become better. The
Yes.
ball is in your court. And as we said in my earlier statement, no guru, no self-help book, no mental health professional, counselor, therapist, or pastor, priest can help you if you do not want the help.
Right.
You have to play a role in your getting well or your recovery with respect to your mental
Yes.
health issues. And
Absolutely.
I tweeted this here, and I think I blogged about it earlier. During the height of the pandemic, I said, listen, just this whole isolation is going to cause mental health to be at an all-time high. And it is. People are dying. People are self-sabotaging themselves, their careers, their marriages, because it can manifest. The sickness, as a result of the sickness, I should say, will manifest in these negative behaviors. You know, people have
Absolutely.
drug-induced psychosis, brief psychosis, as a result of trauma, past trauma. So until you seek the healing, until you sit down and face yourself in the mirror, and you sit there, and as Shakespeare said, unto thyself be true.
Mhm.
No,
Yes.
we can heal and we do recover.
Amen.
Tamika, you
Amen.
got the last word.
Well, I'm just gonna piggyback on that and say I agree and amen. So be it. And I just want to say thank you for having me. This has been an awesome, awesome conversation. I look forward to many, many more different topics, different, things, different guests, all of that. I'm so happy for this opportunity. And, thank you everybody for listening. Crack the Mic is awesome, and it is booming, and we're going to keep going. So this is wonderful. And so Corey, I thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate you. So I'm blessed and overjoyed. Thank you so much.
All right. See you soon, guys. Check us out next week. Peace.